Hi, I'm Jim Mackey with BetterPhoto.com, and welcome to this adventure in photography. We've learned how to take great pictures of kids in our homes and in our own backyards. Today, we have a day at the studio where we're going to learn how to take great pictures of kids in the studio. So here we are at KidCapers, and we're going to meet my friend Vic Warrenstein. Hi, Vic.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. You ready for some fun?
You bet. Come on in. Welcome to KidCapers.
Thank you. Vic's style makes a lot of use of creatively hand-coloring black and white photos. She often presents a series of multiple images in one frame. Her constant goal is to capture a unique view of the child's individual spirit. Although Vic specializes in making portraits in the studio, many of the following tips will help you regardless of where you photograph. Whether you're shooting in a studio, in your living room, or out in the garden, Vic's tips are invaluable.
When I started Kid Shooters back in 1988, I knew I wanted to work with kids, but I didn't know what medium exactly, so I shot everything. And I shot black and white just because I think, first of all, if I had to pick just one medium and never shoot any other film or treatment again, it would be black and white. But the hand-colored is so warm and fuzzy, and it lends itself so well to the subject of kids and families that, that's my second favorite. And then sepia tone is nice too. So I have no interest in direct color, pretty much. And one of the things that I really like to do with my shooting style is for people to do different portraits framed together, because you tell a story that way. And just one portrait isn't going to tell the story. And the story of just the individual kids and the two kids together and how they interact, and the parents, the whole family together, and then you usually do one-on-ones with each kid, with each parent too.
And then you put them all together in sort of a collage.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that's a great, it seems to fit the whole artistic style and the fact that you hand color.
I mean, I think it's always good to learn things in class or from books, but ultimately you have to have your own style and your own interpretation of the medium. Because I used to subscribe to that, if you want reality, take a picture thing, and I didn't realize until I actually picked up a camera that there are a lot of options and interpretation that's involved. Everything's done completely by hand. So we shoot, we hand process, even our proofs are done by hand, our prints are done by hand, custom burned and dodged, sepia toned, and then they're painted by hand by our artist. So this, we shoot the photograph and we use it as scratch. We print it directly onto canvas, and then we do an opaque application of artist's oils on top of the canvas. So it actually is a complete artist's oil painting. It doesn't have the character of the photograph showing through the way the hand-painted photos do. I guess a lot of people look at a photograph as being about what's on the outside, and I like to think of it as what's being on the inside. I mean, we ask people to dress the kids in certain tones that photograph better and all that stuff, but beyond that, I don't care if they remember the belt and the shoes, or if the hair is combed perfectly, because what it's all about is capturing what's inside, and the eyes really are the window to the soul. I think that's, it's a cliche and everybody's heard it, but it's really true. If you can get just that decisive moment of clarity where the inside person is coming out and connecting with the camera or engaging.
How do you go about trying to capture that? What are some of the techniques or the tricks that you find yourself turning to the most to capture that spirit?
Well, we never just say smile. That's one thing. If there's a real engagement, whether it's with me behind the camera or Judy or something that they're doing, then that social persona is forgotten and the real person comes out. And you can tell if it's an open expression and it's unguarded.
Right, exactly.
Or if it's a world aware, It's like a dance, I guess. You go back and forth, you talk a little, you listen a little, you move a little, they move a little, and you just kind of let the flow go back and forth, and you are ready to shoot when you have that open moment.
Yeah, what do you do with the kid who is really doesn't want to be there, is purposely trying to sabotage your shots by frowning or making faces?
You know, we don't get that too much. We occasionally will get kids, especially it seems like boys between 7 and 9, they think they're a little bit too cool to be here, and we just pick on them mercilessly, and that seems to do the trick. The more you tease them, the more relaxed they get, and then when they realize that we're not taking ourselves too seriously,
yeah,
they go with it. You can't have a battle of wills, and you have to collaborate with the subjects always, even when they're 6 months old. It can't be your own agenda and no concern for the kids. And in fact, I have to say that you have to make the photo shoot secondary. You have to, pardon the camera pun, but you have to focus on the child, not on the shoot or the results, and then the results will come. While we're shooting, Judy will sometimes if the kids are shy, they'll interact with Fluffy instead of with her.
Right.
And
but you don't try to do both at the same time. It's really helpful to have an assistant doing it.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't do puppets at the same time I shoot. I do shoot by myself sometimes if I absolutely have to, you know.
Right.
And with certain ages, we'll do Fluffy, and then I'll go behind the camera again. But you can shoot without an assistant, and I do frequently, and it depends on the age of the kids too. But if you want to get really, really the best results every single time, then yeah, you have to have a wrangler. You know, it's important, and you have to have somebody who really is a kid themselves at heart.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to ask you what makes a good assistant, and that was something. Judy's almost like a clown, if she doesn't mind me saying so. You know?
She is, yeah. She's very goofy. The goofier, the better.
You try to stay out from behind the camera as much as possible?
It depends. If I'm working with a wrangler, then it's okay to be behind the camera, and it's almost a distraction if I try to insert my comments in there.
Yeah.
But if I'm not working with the wrangler, I try to play with the kids for a while, get down on their eye level. If I'm asking them to do a certain pose or a certain action, I'll do it with them, both so that it's an example that they can follow, and also because I'm not asking them to do something I wouldn't do myself. You know, you get a little more camaraderie going that way. Then I go behind the camera and I'll shoot that, and then I come back out again, and then I go back and I shoot. So it's back and forth, back and forth.
And you said something about not using props.
Yeah, I don't like props. I think it distracts from the kid. And again, my whole reason of being in this business is to capture the spirit, and the props are really secondary. So, I mean, you see a lot of furniture around here, and that does get into the shot sometimes, but 99% of the time, my favorite pictures are just the kid and just the open expression.
So I noticed that you were sitting in your chair a lot too. Is that just for comfort reasons, or?
No, actually, it's kind of an uncomfortable chair. It's just to get the right whatever perspective or angle that I want for the shoot. I tend to, if I'm shooting just kids standing, I like to be at the kids' eye level. If I'm shooting headshots, I like to be a little bit higher and shooting down, because it gives you a warmer emotional feeling when it feels like the child's leaning towards you.
I've noticed that too.
Yeah.
Something about looking up just slightly.
It just gives you a warm fuzzy.
And when you're photographing children, young toddlers, you need to get really low.
Then I'm on the floor, and when I'm photographing, for instance, like a 6-month-old baby, I'll be on my side on the floor shooting.
I was also going to ask you, one time I noticed when Judy asked Max, the boy, to lean forward, he kind of did too far. So what do you do when your directions kind of are too executed?
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes we just let it go, and we go ahead and keep distracting them with the idea in mind that they're going to go lean back into a natural position once we get started and get goofy again. But sometimes she'll actually go in and physically put them where we want them, or not even put them where she wants them, but I kind of call it like the Etch-a-Sketch, because she'll go in and she'll shake their shoulders or something like that, like she's erasing the previous pose, and then they'll fall into a new pose. So it depends. It's kind of touchy-feely. Sometimes we move them physically where we want them, and sometimes we just kind of distract them and hope that things will fall into place.
That's what I noticed too, is that with Katie, the girl, she took direction really well, and you could be very explicit and tell her to cross her hands and put them on her shoulder, and she listened, and she was like, you know, just to the T. So it seems like it is really a case-by-case basis, and there's no magic formula. You just kind of have to go with the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some kids you'll say, just put your chin down just a little bit and you get this, you know, and some kids you just naturally know exactly, it seems like it anyway, they just naturally know exactly what you're going for, and they just fall into place perfectly. And some kids are just naturally there, and you don't even give them any direction because they're just doing their thing, and you know, I'm just shooting.
So pretend you're a parent and you just want to augment your own pictures of your kids at home with some more professional looking photos. You just want to have fun in your garage. What's your shopping list? What are the basics?
Depends on what your budget is. Yeah,
bare bones budget. You know, maybe you want to keep it under $300 or something. Is that possible?
It's possible. I would go with tungsten lights then instead of strobes. And they're less expensive, and it'll allow you to get a feel for whether you want to take the next step up and move to strobes.
So the main difference that beginners need to know are there are two kinds of lights. One is strobe and one is mono light. What are those differences again?
Tungsten, also called continuous or floodlight, it's on all the time, and that's why it gets hot. And it's also a little bit yellowy, so when you shoot with normal print film or normal daylight balanced film, you're going to have a little bit of a yellow effect. A strobe light is balanced for daylight, so you can use color film with it with impunity pretty much. It's more powerful, it doesn't get hot, and it's really easy to control. Because it is more powerful, you can use a lot more diffusion and still have a lot of light to work with.
What is the main advantage of using a tungsten light instead of a strobe?
Well, they're less expensive, so that's a plus for some people when they're starting out on a budget. And they do give a really beautiful kind of smoky quality to the light. And like you said, you can get them at Home Depot. You can use yard lights. You don't necessarily have to go to a professional site, but they have some very reasonable package prices on some of the sites.
Okay, and then what about if you do want to get us maybe 2 or 3 strobes? Are you talking $1,000, $1,500, or
it can be $1,000 to $1,500 if you buy them new. But if you go to your local professional photo store or the F-swap meets, or you know, look on eBay, you can get some really good deals on used equipment because it's more like 10 cents on the dollar.
Okay, cool. So you could, if you're willing to experiment and be open to that.
Yeah, and take a little bit of time, and if you're not too picky about what brand you get. I've been buying used equipment my whole career. I've bought a couple of new pieces, but otherwise it's all used. And I have Normans, I have Speedotrons, I have Novatron, and they're all equally good. So.
Good. What about really bare bones? What if a parent just got a backdrop or some seamless paper and tried to use a natural light?
That's great. Yeah.
Good.
That's a good way to go. A natural light can be really, really beautiful, and you know, it's not inferior to studio light. The real beauty of studio light is that you can create a variety of looks, and you can completely control it. So you can shoot what you want when you want it. You can use natural light, and it will be equally beautiful, but you're going to have to do it at the right time of the day and in the right situation.
Yeah, you're going to have to position your backdrop next to a window or a door or something where you got a lot of light coming in. Like right here, you're in a warehouse location with a lot of big windows, and I'm sure that helps for when you want to shoot natural light. But when you're fulfilling client obligations, you can't
rely on the natural light.
Weather could cloud up. So, but for a parent having fun, it might be a good way to go if they don't have the money.
Sure, it could be great. Yeah. Okay. And actually, you know, the drawback and what makes a lot of shots that are in the home look like snapshots as opposed to portraits is the clutter in the background. Yeah. So, and sometimes you can't get a shallow enough depth of field because you can't get far enough away from the child to use a long focal length or what have you. Right. Then having that backdrop is a great way to go. And you don't need to have a muslin. You can just use, you know, cotton duck, or you can use fabric. And it doesn't have to be a large area, especially if you're shooting tight. You can have, you know, a piece of fabric from the fabric store, tape it to the wall or drape it over a chair or something.
Well, we've had a great time learning how to take pictures of kids in the studio. Thank you, Vic, for your time and expertise. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
If anyone else would like to learn about taking pictures of kids in the studio, Vic teaches a class on photographing children at betterphoto.com, as well as a class on studio portrait lighting and a class on business of photography if you ever want to go pro. It's been fun, and we've had another adventure in photography. Join us at betterphoto.com to learn more about how to take great pictures of your kids.